Culture is the feeling that people get that make them say, I like it here. It's that thing it's intangible. You can't touch it, but you know when it's there. You know when it's good, and it makes you feel good. Lives are changed by the way people feel. So it's important to pay attention to culture and creating and building and cultivating the right type of culture that you get when you get clarity. So let me just do a quick reset. Branding is all about clarity. It's all about controlling the perception that people have by being clear about who you are and who you're called to reach. And the result of that is this thing we called culture. Culture is it's hard to define, but it's like when you go to a restaurant and you might sit down at a restaurant for the first time, and you don't know exactly what's going on, but you just decide within the first 15 minutes that, man, I really like this place. I've never been here before, but I just like it. You don't know that the paint color of that wall over there was debated on for 3 months before they finally settled on that. Or maybe that they worked for 4 weeks to get the menu narrowed down just right and designed just right to where you like it. You don't know that they go to great lengths to go to get local produce so that when they make the food, it's made fresh and it's local produce. You don't know that the waiter that served you had to spend 20 hours in training, learning how to serve you in just the right way and say just the right words. You don't know all of that back in the background that's taking place. You just know that, man, I like it here. I like this restaurant. And that's the culture that we're talking about. It's what happens in a church. When people step into your doors, they can get a feel within about 10 minutes of, I like it here. Or the opposite is also true. I don't like it here. So what kind of culture do you have? How can you be intentional about creating culture? Well, in this talk right now, we're going to talk about four edges that create a culture in your church. And I want to point out that yes, there are some edges in culture. A lot of times, churches are very cautious or careful not to be a box and not to put themselves into a box. But I really want to challenge that because you are called to reach a certain type of people. You're really good at certain things. So you should get really good to learn what those are and get really good at doing those things, which means you're going to have some edges. There's going to be some people that don't like your church, and you have to be okay with that if they go to a different church because you're so focused on the people you are called to reach that you're going to create some edges on it. So the four edges are basically the environment, the service, the type of service that you have, the teams, the way they interact and the way they come together, the ministry itself. Like how do you do ministry at the church? So those four areas are really defining your culture in a big way. So think of a culture as a honeybee hive. If you think about a honeybee hive, there's all these bees that are busy and they're doing all sorts of things. They're going in, they're going out. They're just, a lot of activity happening. And the byproduct of that activity is honey. Honey is this gooey, sticky, golden, delicious substance that just happens when these bees are busy doing whatever they do. And that's what culture is. It's this sticky, gooey thing that's just very attractive. It's attractive and it's sticky. There's certain things that are attracted to honey, like bears and humans. And same thing is true. Your culture becomes attractive to other people, and it becomes sticky to where people say, I like it here, and I don't want to come back. So that's what a culture does for you. It allows you to create that great momentum, so people want to be part of what's going on at your church. There's two big ways that you can help to form your culture. The thing about culture too is that you can't manufacture it. You can only be it. And these two ways help you to be who you're trying to be. So as you get clarity about your brand, you can tell stories. So the first thing you could do is tell stories, and stories will help to develop the cultures. Tell stories of life change that are happening in the way that you are uniquely designed to allow that to happen. So tell those stories. The second thing, the second way that you help to build a culture is by developing a language, a common language that everybody uses and communicates in the same way, and they use the same words. So a language is important, and I've got a few examples here of language that are coming from certain churches, growing, thriving churches that have adopted the idea of having a language, a way of saying things. I'll just point out, there's a bunch of them here on my screen. I'll just point out a few of them. There's Gateway Church, and they've got some language that they have going on for freedom, stewardship, community health. There's another church that New Spring Church. They've got 5 statements. They're pretty sticky. Found people, find people. Growing people, change. Saved people, serve people. You can't outgive God. You can't do life alone. So they have 5 core values, and then they have five of these really punchy, sticky statements that they put up on the walls. They say from the stage. It's all over the place. And when you come into the church environment, you brush up against this way of thinking through the language. I just went to a church and just to check it out. And they had a catchphrase that I heard at least 3 times, and I saw on the walls as they were making announcements or they were talking from the stage. I heard the phrase, "Until Jesus runs this town." And then on the wall, it was on there, "Until Jesus runs this town." And it just kept on coming up in different ways throughout the service. And that's what you want. That's what helps to develop a culture, is this language that takes place. So culture is not manufactured. It's a byproduct of the clarity you have towards your vision. So develop that language, tell those stories, have clarity about who you are, who you're called to reach, and you'll have a great culture that happens where you get so much momentum moving forward, and people just want to be a part of what's happening at your church.